What's going on, y'all? Channel TFD is back in the building, and right now. That's really the big issue at this point. Having enough healthy bodies. Caitlin Clark is already sidelined, and just recently, they lost both Sydney Colson and Sophie Cunningham during the same game. We spoke with head coach Stephanie White after today's practice, and she shared some optimism. Over the weekend, both players underwent MRI scans that came back with encouraging results. While they're listed as day-to-day, it's apparent they'll still be out for a short stretch. Colson was seen pedaling on a stationary bike late in practice, while the team got shots up. Sophie Cunningham also made an appearance during interviews, walking and wearing slides. No boot, no brace, but clearly taking it easy. It appears she's re-aggravated that same right ankle she tweaked back in the preseason finale on May 10th down in Atlanta. With these setbacks, the Fever are once again forced to adjust on the fly. Players have said it feels like they're restarting from scratch every day. And now, with potentially 3 players out, including Caitlin Clark, they're facing more lineup challenges. Worth noting, Dėja Donsis didn't practice either. No injury reported, just a rest day, per Coach White. She was present, watching from the sidelines. In the last 24 hours, White and the front office had to regroup, talk through options, and figure out short-term solutions. Right now, the focus is on securing a hardship exception to temporarily add another player to the roster. It's a necessary move just to field a full team and avoid deeper rotation issues. I asked Steph White whether they'd prioritize familiarity with the team or simply go with the best available talent at the guard spot. She didn't hesitate. Best player available. We also caught up with Kelly Krauskopf while covering the Pacers' historic return to the NBA Finals. First time since 2000. But beyond basketball milestones, it gave us a chance to ask her directly about the Fever's current injury concerns. She confirmed they're aiming to bring in someone ahead of Tuesday's home matchup against the Washington Mystics. So to sum it up, positive news on the MRI front, but still no timetable for return. Colson's dealing with a left leg issue, Cunningham with that nagging right ankle, and the Fever are scrambling to stay afloat while they wait for reinforcements. The Fever front office just dropped some major news, and we gotta break it all the way down. So buckle up, we heading straight to Naptown. Now this right here, this is what we've been waiting on. After weeks of silence, confusion, and fans begging for answers, we finally got something from the top. And no, it wasn't just a press release or some vague tweet. Nah, this time it came straight from Fever President Kelly and Coach Steph herself. They stepped in front of the mic and cleared the air on what's really happening with this roster. And listen, when I tell you they've been watching, I mean they've been watching. These YouTube videos, your comments, the tweets, they hear y'all. They feel the pressure. And today, they responded. Now we still didn't get a word from Amber Cox on the injury drama, but Kelly? She came correct. Right beside Stephanie White. And for the first time in weeks, things actually make sense. The injuries, the lineup, the choices. Sophie Cunningham out. Sydney Colson out. And then they passed on Haley Jones. That one still stings. She could have made an instant impact. But look, fans wanted clarity, and they delivered it today. This ain't no speculation no more. This is straight from the source. I'm done talking. You know what time it is. Let's get to the footage.
Steph, what can you share about Sophie and Sydney at this point?
Yeah, I think we got good news, from both of their MRIs. As good a news as you can get. And so right now it's a day-to-day thing. We're looking forward to hopefully them returning at some point sooner, rather than later. But at the same time, it's how each of them progresses in their rehab and in their return to the court action.
At least encouraging, too, to see Sydney on a bike and whatever else she was able to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure. Sid's been progressing really quickly. She's going to get out there and get some shots up, too. So we'll see where she sits when she comes back after her recovery from today. Make sure we don't have any setbacks, and then we'll see where she is tomorrow.
How about Damaris? We saw her just standing.
Yeah.
Is there something there, too?
Yeah, just a rest day. I think for Dee, she's got a lot of miles on, and making sure she gets a little bit of rest, had a little bit of soreness in her lower body, so don't want that to create or to turn into anything.
Her kid was bad. Like upper leg.
No, it's like upper leg.
And for sure, is that kind of reactivating her ankle injury? Or is it something different?
Yeah, I believe so. It's that same ankle. Yeah.
What was it like over the last 24 hours? Is it sure you got with the front office and discuss the short-term plan and the long-term plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's been trying to figure out all of our options, from potential hardship contracts and players and who's available, and to how we're, and with our coaches, really like how we reimagine how we're using our players. So we've had a good opportunity in practice today to get a lot of different looks. We anticipate Washington coming with a lot of pressure, so we've got to have our bigs be able to bring the ball down the floor, initiate offense. What are the best things for us to get into? Getting back to the basics and simplifying.
For you, when you're thinking about a potential hardship player, are you valuing someone like knows the system, has been here, or is it maybe best player available at that position?
I think best player available at that position who can add value on both ends of the floor. Certainly we need to have someone who can add value on the defensive end. We got to have somebody who can help us navigate and get into offense, handle the ball. Since we're down to 2 healthy guards, the goal would be to get everybody kind of back to their natural positions if we can. But at the same time, we can't control everything, so we'll get the best player that we can get that will fit into how we want to play.
Do you anticipate signing a hardship player?
I hope so.
Yeah. What does simplify mean in terms of with this group? Is that more so what you're calling out there and more read and react, or what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more calling and structure in our offense, a little less reading, so that we can kind of predetermine a little bit more, maybe giving 3 or 4 actions or sets that they can run, as opposed to giving them 6 or 7 options. So we simplify it that way, who's on the floor with whom, and then same thing defensively. We'd like to get to where we can cover different players different ways, but we're going to have some players playing out of position, so we got to simplify it and just get really good at 1 or 2 things.
I want to talk about the games now. Friday's game, you were going to injuries, and bringing someone in and trying to get stuff.
I think the simplifying hopefully helps that, giving them just a couple of things that we can focus on, and we continue to really rep over the last 2 days on both ends of the floor, knowing that the players are going to be playing out of position and freeing them up to stay aggressive and just play. That's the fun, challenging part of the coaching situation is, still putting them in positions to be successful while it might be a little bit outside their comfort zone.
You try to use any of what they did at the beginning of the season, the slow start, the injuries piling up as something here?
Yeah, I mean, every team's different. Every year is different. I mean, every game is different. So I think you do this long enough, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And, the year we won in 2012, we started the season 1-7. And we had a lot of, ups and downs. I mean, every year is different. So I think, you just try to find strength, and sort of pull in, this next day is a new opportunity. So, I'm glad it's early in the season. We still have opportunities ahead of us. We have a long ways to go.
Just on the Fever side of things, for the last couple of days, been like kind of figuring out increasing our potential hardship.
Yeah, I mean, we're down in numbers, but we're looking at adding another player for a player. Help us with the numbers and try to get people healthy and try to get a full roster back together. I mean, games are still coming, so it's going to be an adjustment, but we have a good group, we have good depth, thankfully, so that should help us.
Are you hoping to have that player before today's game?
We're hoping, yeah.
Have you ever been through any circumstance this early into the season and such where you're battling 3-4 down? Like, how unique is this?
Remember, I don't, probably, but I mean, because the WNBA, I mean, the roster sizes are so much smaller. So when you get down to the 11-player roster and you lose 3 players like that, now you've got to add a quick player to your roster. So it's something that you just deal with being in this league with the roster size being a little bit smaller, and that's why you try to build for depth.
Is this maybe another perfect example of where the WNBA could get to where they had, like the NBA has 2 ways, but maybe phone player development roles and they could be available in times like this? Would that be ideal?
I mean, more bodies would be good. Yeah.